Welcome to the studio, guys.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Doing it big. So
You look prepared.
I am prepared. I feel like I'm most prepared for a Cars and Kicks podcast.
As always, you
guys are, if I'm going to be honest, seem a little underprepared.
little amateur hour-ish.
Yeah. I would think that considering what we all just went through, that you guys would come to the podcast prepped and ready. But I guess I'm the only one here, which is great. I mean, that's cool.
I admire your commitment to the podcast and to the character.
Yes.
So I'm not going to even try to defend myself. I'm just going to take it on the chin and say, yeah, you're right. Like Nick and I, it's a major fail not showing up with a.
Honestly, I probably should be wearing that around LA traffic. I mean, it's probably safer for me.
Wow.
I don't think he's taking it off since we left.
All right. Let's get into the pod. Welcome everybody. I'm Jacques Slade. Intro. I've been so in my car zone that, I didn't really, let's see, what can we go here? You're listening to the pod with Erik, Nick, and Jacques talking about cars and kicks. And this is where you get your fix. Thank you. Nice and short. Keep it nice and short this week. Nice and short
There
this
we
week.
go.
Nice and short this week.
I like that.
What up? So we got a ton of things to talk to you guys about today. Went a couple places, did a couple of things.
Hence the helmet.
Because I'm fully prepared. I'm all over this. Drove some things.
Yes.
Talked to some people.
We did.
We had a lot going on in the last week. Jumped on some planes.
Yeah, I mean that's for those of you that have been following since the beginning, we appreciate it. Yes, we missed last week with the episode. That was because we were in the middle of all of this stuff,
all the things.
And Jacques has slept in that helmet since we got back from what we will talk about, the Discount Tire Treadwell experience. I think it's safe to say, Nick, that we finally got Jacques on a track, and I think he liked it.
I think
Perfect.
so too.
Maintain your speed. Kid just ran out in front of you. What are you gonna do? There you go. Where's your mother?
I did. And we'll get into that. But let's do all the intros. I'm Jacques Slade. You can find me at Cousteau. I am the affable idiot here on the show, but it would be nothing without these two guys here because they're the glue. They're the subject matter experts. Like, they're the real reason that you watch this podcast or you listen to this podcast. I'm really just here as a third leg. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it to Nick, and I'm going to take this helmet off because it's squeezing my head now.
My name is Nick Engvall. I'm kind of the resident car guy, sneaker guy, kind of play in both worlds. Kind of try to keep these guys in balance. Jacques being more of the sneaker guy, and our guy Erik more of the car expert. Erik.
Yeah, that's a badge I wear with honor. I am the resident car guy here. I know a little bit about kicks, but these are our experts here, and I just kind of want to make note of something you probably have noticed. We are not remote today.
We're not
guys.
remote today.
We're actually all in the same city at the same time. We're out in LA, which we came out for a couple of other events. We'll get into that in a minute, as we mentioned. But I gotta give super shouts out to the people that let us use this studio.
Very kind.
No, spoiler alert, I am not gonna be in Blue Beetle nor Cobra Kai. But for those of you that follow those shows, probably know where we're at. We're in the studio for Lon Lobos, another podcast hosted by Xolo Maridueña and Jacob Bertrand, both from Cobra Kai. So I have to give them some big love for they're in New York at the moment, and they let us use their home. So thank you guys for that.
Thank you.
And yeah, we did dress it up a little bit. We got
we threw some sneakers.
Tried to make it our home.
But double and triple spoiler, Nick and I aren't going to be in Blue Beetle or Cobra Kai either. So just want to put that out there as well for anybody that's.
In case you were on edge waiting for that
just waiting for that announcement.
I mean, I don't know. Look, James Gunn, Jim Lee, all you guys, if you're watching, you know that I'm now unemployed because our show is, it's airing right now, but I'm not filming anything. So if there's another Blue Beetle and you need like Xolo's older uncle, like, I'm around. Just saying.
There you go. And if you need like a store clerk, they can come into my liquor store.
I can deliver coffee. Whatever you need,
we got
you know?
we got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we just
Okay.
wrote ourselves in.
Yeah, we just
fellas.
wrote ourselves into the script. Thanks, guys.
So no, we got a lot to talk about, as Jacques mentioned here. It's really exciting to first of all to be in the same room together. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
But all of this kind of happened because of the podcast. We're starting to get invited places. We are on the way, folks. And last couple of weeks have been pretty exciting. I guess first and foremost, we'll start talking about the reason you were wearing a helmet. We got invited out to San Antonio, Texas, by the folks at Discount Tire. Shouts out to them for an incredible experience. They're calling the Treadwell Experience, and we got a lot to recap there. As we mentioned, it was Jacques' first time on a track ever.
Yes.
We drove a lot of different things, a lot of different disciplines, and the main reason was to try to bring awareness to tire education, something that isn't necessarily the sexiest thing to talk about, the coolest thing to talk about, but it was something that they brought a series of influencers in, and I guess we fit in that category now because of y'all, because you're watching the pod. and
Yeah,
listening.
very loose interpretation of the word influencer. Very loose.
Yes.
Very loose.
Agreed. But yeah, I kind of want to go to Jacques first because again, Nick and I have both been on track before. We've experienced things not quite like this event. But before I get into like the nerdy car guy elements of it, I want to get Jacques' like knee-jerk reaction to everything. How was it, man, being out there in something like that? Because you've never been to an event like that.
All right.
You ready for this?
No, but let's see how this goes.
So I've never been to an event like that. I've obviously been to like sneaker events and stuff like that before. So this was the first time experiencing something like that. And it was like exhilarating. Like your blood gets pumping. I was nervous. I was 100% nervous at first. And I definitely took the driving Miss Davesy approach to when I first got on the track. Because, I don't know where my skills lie. I like to think that I'm a good driver. In my brain, I can make it happen on the 405. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get me on the 405, I'm a problem. You know what I mean? But when it comes to actually getting on a track, and not only, it's not like you're not by yourself, first of all, so there's an instructor with you. Very important note. They do not trust me to be alone
Really?
in a car.
I got to drive by myself. Nick, did
I
you?
didn't.
Yeah, see,
damn.
that's
Oh.
so. Yeah, somebody in here got the exclusive treatment. Actor, but yeah, I had an instructor, and so that made me even more nervous because I'm thinking like while I'm driving, I was like, he's judging everything that I do, because we had to do like these tests, and we had to do like these brake tests, and then we had to accelerate to a certain speed, and like I couldn't even get the car to stay at a certain speed because I was so nervous. And he was like, "Oh no, you can speed up," and then I speed up, and then I just shoot past the targeted speed. Then I try to slow down, and I'd be so focused on slowing down that I wasn't paying attention to what he wanted me to do in the car. So it was just a lot going on. But after those first couple of times, I started to get a little bit more comfortable. And then I just got overconfident. So, that's a thing. That's a thing that happens real quickly.
And to be fair, like I've never been in an event like this. This was totally one of a kind. But I've been in a car with an instructor before. Like you still get that nerve build up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you even get it to a little extent, even just in the like, you got to feel out what the car is, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nerve just changes from like the guy sitting next to me to how is this car actually set up? What's it actually look like when I have the pedal to the floor?
Yes.
And I got to feel out what the tires are like, what the brakes are like, all that kind of stuff.
Right, and I get a little bit of that. It's a little different because I think on my end, because I have so much experience behind the wheel of a car, having raced various things for 25 years. Victor, our buddy Victor at ID Agency, who set all of this up for us, I think he oversells me a bit. So he'll tell the folks at Discount Tire, the people, the instructors in the car, like, oh yeah, he's raced a lot, blah blah blah. So I get in the driver's seat and I'm like, yo, do they expect me to be Lewis Hamilton right now? Because it's not going to be that. Like I'm rusty and I'm old at this point. So for me, there's those bit of nerves where it's like, okay. The other part of it is like you're not in a race. You're not trying to set fast laps or anything. You're trying to experience, in this case, you're trying to experience the tires and the testing that Discount put all of these tires through to then, create data, and we'll get into that in a minute, for their Treadwell program to educate consumers. But, for me, it's like, okay, if I go out there, like my 60-70% is a lot faster than your average non-race car driver's 60 or 100% even.
Right.
So it's like, okay, is this instructor going to start yelling at me? Like, because I've had that happen at an event before. We were at Vegas Motor Speedway doing something with a Lamborghini Super Trofeo and then a Porsche GT3 Cup car, and they had a right seat guy, and he started freaking out on my out lap. He's like, whoa, what are you doing? I was like, bro, I'm just trying to get a little heat in the tires and stuff. No, you can. So anyway, I've had this happen before. But no, these guys, everybody that they brought out of Discount Tire was super professional, super cool.
Really great.
And they knew how to handle, the varying elements. There was probably, if I had to guess, there's probably 60 different people out there, from the automotive world, influencer world, journalists, et cetera, maybe even more than that. And all from varying levels of experience behind the wheel. And I felt like they were able to educate those that hadn't experienced anything like that, and also accommodate the folks like me. There were some of the automotive journalists out there. Jason Camisa was out there, and some of those guys can really wheel a car.
Yeah.
And they didn't rein us in too much. They kind of let us have the full experience, which was really cool.
Yeah, something that I noticed, there was definitely different levels of driving. There were Erik, and then Nick was in the middle. And then there were me's. I think I was the only me there. I think everyone was probably more Nick and in Erik's area, somewhere between you two. And I think I was probably the low man on the totem pole, which I'm comfortable with. I get it. I'm new to the scene. I felt like a lot of other people had, everyone there was car people.
Yes,
they were all very into cars, either whether it's photography or events or builders or whatever, customizers, I should say. Not, is it builders or customizers?
Both.
Both.
Builders, customizers, racers, all of those things. And I am the sneaker guy.
I will say I'm super proud of you for a couple of reasons.
Thank you.
I legitimately am, because there was one time. So one of the vehicles we got to drive was the new Lotus Emira, which was awesome, on a half road course, half autocross course. And I looked out there first, and I was giving Jacques shit, not to his face, because why would I do that? But I'm talking to the other guys. He's out there, and I was like, oh, who's out there? Can you tell him that you can go faster than 25 miles an hour? And anyway, I'm having a conversation. I look out, a couple laps later, and I'm like, who's driving now? And it was Jacques. And you got some confidence there, and you started picking up some speed, and it was pretty impressive. And I will say, I will not name names, but you were not the one that put the Jeep into the tree and the dirt course, nor did you loop the Lotus off into the dirt. Neither one of those was you, so give yourself a little more credit.
There you go. So, I think it's because I think it's called quick learner. I think that's what it is. But, you know what I'm saying, guys? Let me not get too much confidence. But no, only reason I got more confidence in the Lotus was because, so I did it. So we had 2 tries. We had, three technically. The instructor took us around. Yeah. Then we took it around to get a feel for it. And then they were kind of like, all right, go ahead, open it up. So after my second run, I got the opportunity. I was like, I want my instructor to just be in the car with my instructor. Yeah. And let my instructor go full out. Because the first time with the instructor, they're just trying to show you. They're going
super
around,
polite,
being polite about it. And I was like, well, can you just show me what this could be like versus what I'm doing? And she just went all out. And I was like, oh, you can go faster here. Oh, you turn, okay, you slow down. And that was okay. So a couple of light bulbs went off. And that's why for the third time that I was able to go, I was like, oh, okay, I can push this a little more and not be worried that I'm going to wreck this Lotus that I definitely can't afford to pay for.
Yeah. That actually is interesting, because I did go a third time, but I didn't have the instructor fast lap in the middle like you did. So, it was just what he was telling me as I was making my laps. And I definitely got faster with it. But the thing about the Lotus that was interesting to me was just the downshifts were took a little bit for me to get used to, because I wasn't in full manual.
You left it in I guess the automatic. Did you go into sport mode at least, or
sport mode? Yeah,
there's sport mode. They had me put it in sport mode.
Yeah, that's what they had me put it in,
and still left it in auto.
Yeah, and honestly, I probably wouldn't have gotten. It's probably better that way, because I wouldn't have gotten familiar with the car that quickly. I don't think, just because I haven't driven its paddle shift.
It's hard too to familiarize. It's a circuit you don't know, a car you don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. If we had to do it in manual, it would have been a nightmare. It would have been a nightmare. I was very glad that I got to do it.
It is cool though that you got to experience. I don't know what level of professional, driver accolades your driver had, but those are all tire testers out there.
Yeah.
That's what they do. So they know these circuits, they know the vehicles, and they can push them. And it is really cool. I mean, I can imagine. It's a lot like you've been to a lot of basketball events and golf events and things like that, and you feel like you've got some skills, and then you go out there on the court with somebody who can really play, or out on the golf course with somebody who can really play, and the next thing you know, you look at the scorecard, and they're like 4 under, and you're like 12 over.
Yep.
You're like, wait a minute, what happened? So it's similar to that, I guess, where you get to see, oh, okay, this is what you can do with this type of equipment and everything, which is, it's cool.
It's like those guys that always talk trash online about basketball players, like, oh, he missed that layup. Oh, he got this. Like, bro, you can't even be in the same gym as that dude. Like,
we call it in the car world, we call them bench racers.
Yeah.
They just sit there and talk shit. And
you're not even close to being in there. But I mean, all of that to say, like, the whole reason we were there was to test tires.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which is something that I didn't know was a thing. But it was cool. It was actually pretty cool. I learned quite a bit about the give and take from performance tires versus winter tires versus rain tires versus comfort tires. Like, there's all these different aspects to picking your tires, which I would have never thought about, which I should probably feel shame about, because I do that when it comes to sneakers, and I break all that stuff down when it comes to outsoles on shoes, but I never really put it together when it came to sneakers. But it was made so plain by the folks at Discount Tire. So kudos to them for putting it together. And it really made me think about the next time I buy tires, like, I'm going to be like an annoying customer now. Like, I know enough where they just can't be like, oh, here's the cheap ones. I can be like, well, what's the rating on these? And what's the SAE rating on these? And they're going to imagine going to look at me like I'm a crazy man.
Well, go ahead, Nick.
I was going to say, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't know how many sets of tires I've bought throughout my life, but like, it's got to be 100 plus, right? Over the course of time.
Sure. Yeah.
And like, even me as somebody who is like into the stuff, maybe not to the level of Erik where he's on the track and really can feel the, but I've been in cars with full race tires. I understand that concept. And I would say, I've told them, I'd say I'm probably like a 7 or 8 on the commitment level of tires. In like, there's always a budget, right? And there's always a more expensive option.
Yes.
But going there and seeing the difference, the best thing about the event for me was, you think of tires, and like, we could all have Porsche GT3 RSs, 2007s, because this is imaginary in my fantasy.
That is the pinnacle of that car.
We each have them, and we each have a slightly different setup. You've got a better suspension than I do. Erik's got better tires than both of us, and like, we could talk to each other, but there's variables there that we can't account for.
Right.
So to be in 2 cars where the only variables are the tires, there was so much wow factor for me as somebody who's driven on very similar tires that were out there multiple times in my life. It's like, okay, I definitely need to step my game up. Like, level 7 or 8 is not good enough when buying tires. I need to be at like a 9.5 or higher on my commitment level, because it was that powerful for me.
What's great about that feedback and everything is that's exactly what Discount Tire was kind of trying to get through in this whole Treadwell experience. Is, if you go on their website, they have the Treadwell. It's not really an app, it's on the website, but you can go in there, you can kind of plug in, what car you've got and all that other stuff. And it goes beyond, they've had that for a while, where it'll tell you what size tire you need. Because let's be real, the vast majority of people that aren't car people have no idea what a 255 4018 is. Like, what is the section width? What is the profile? What size wheel? So that was the initial thing, is, okay, let me plug in what car I have, because I don't know what size my tires are, and it'll tell me this, and it'll give me these options. But where it goes like down car geek alley, in my opinion, is through this Treadwell process, right? So this whole facility, it was a 900-acre, something like that, they said, facility.
Massive.
And they had everything from a 2.5-mile road course that had banked turns to kind of simulate on and off ramps, the reflectors in the road, the simulated potholes, the asphalt, concrete, different things that you encounter in day-to-day driving they have on this particular road course. And what they were, Jacques and Nick were talking about with the kind of dry and wet, that was our first stop. they had one side of the track that was a dry lane, another side that was a wet lane, and 2 identical BMW 3 Series, 2 different tires. And they had us make some laps to, try to notice the noise in these things, how the tires slap when you're going over the different, joints in the pavement, etc. But the biggest thing, and I think all of us, and me included, was what a difference it makes in like stopping, especially in the wet.
Yeah.
They had us go up to 70 miles an hour, slam on the brakes, and they have a Race Logic box in the car that measures stopping distance. And even for me, like, I've driven a lot of different cars, a lot of different tires. When you go, I've never been able to go back to back like that with this set of tires and that set of tires.
Yep.
And there was, no joke, a 40-foot difference from 70 miles an hour in the wet, 20 feet in the dry. And so where it gets interesting is talking about the performance aspect. A lot of folks are like, well, why do I need performance tires? It's just my wife and the kids in the minivan. That's exactly why you need performance tires, is something that will work in your environment. If you're in the Pacific Northwest and it rains a lot, 40 feet stopping difference in a panic stop situation is the difference in you stopping short of hitting somebody or going completely through the car in front of you and probably into the next one.
Yep.
So things like that your average consumer, even us, we don't have access to a facility with all this testing and everything. And so that's what Discount Tire is doing, is they're testing for all of those variables. And then they create, I don't know how many data points they put into, but they create a whole list and they rank tires based on their performance. And it'll be noise, it'll be comfort, it'll be wet handling, dry handling, etc. And the idea behind that is it can take your average consumer down this little mini rabbit hole without having to have them experience and say, hey, this is what we found. These are the highlights of this tire. Those are the downsides, vice versa. Because you can have one tire that's really good in the dry, not so great in the wet. One that's pretty decent in both dry and wet, but you would never want to drive in a snowy, icy situation, or vice versa. And so that's the cool thing, is you don't really have to think about all that when you go to the website and you look at that. They've done all that for you, which is really cool. And one of the things Jacques was mentioning with sneakers, he, breaks them down and everything like that. And you had a question at one point that you posed to the Discount Tire people, and because I'm who I am with my geeky car knowledge, I chimed in to answer before they could. But it was a really good point. Like you were asking about, the tire tread and why this tire stops better in the wet versus that. And my explanation was basically, okay, squeak your shoe on the ground right now.
Yeah.
And then I'll squeak my shoe on the ground. And Jacques was wearing Jordan 1s. I was wearing P6000s, a running shoe or something. His make a squeak. They're also a little stickier. And why is that? Well, basketball shoes designed to help you move quickly, laterally, all over the place on a basketball court. Running shoe is designed for comfort and movement kind of in the same motion over long distances. Neither one are designed to do the same thing, and it's very similar to tires. So when you've got a pair of sneakers, you're not going to go play basketball in your running shoes. You're not going to play golf in, Crocs. You're not, it's like there's different sneakers, different shoes for different things. It's the same thing with tires. And I feel like that was kind of the easiest way for me to convey that to you.
Yeah.
Because you're a sneakerhead, but also for the folks out there that aren't really into sneakers. I mean, everybody wears shoes, and you do. You've got, even if you don't have 3,000 pairs of sneakers like my man Nick over here, you've got your shoes for the gym, you've got your church shoes, you got your dress shoes, you got your sneakers or whatever it is, and they're there for a reason because they do different things. And so that was kind of the cool way of explaining this whole Treadwell experience in layman terms is, pick where you live, what your driving style is, go online, look at all that, and you can make an informed, decision based on all of that stuff.
Yeah. I think what was really interesting too, like you said, 40 feet and 20 feet, 40 feet in the wet, 20 in the dry kind of differences in your runs.
Yeah.
Similarly, Jacques and I were in those cars together, and we had very, very similar numbers.
Yep.
And I think I was taking it a little bit quicker, but all up and down to have a very similar 40-foot, 20-foot difference in that is telling to the level of driver, the level of speed, the commitment to getting on it.
Right.
Really is a very good overall general view of tires. That, I think that's the thing for me. The event was just so this is what they do there, but the event was so well thought out that they put us in a position to walk away going, this is, you know, I said it to somebody asked me there, and I'm like, this is the thing I wish I had if I was in Discount Tire right now, wanting to know what tires to get. I want this experience. Just put me in 2 cars over the next hour, and I will probably spend an extra $200 or $300 or whatever that price difference is to get into that higher level of tire, which is crazy. And I don't think you can really do that, obviously, because you've got millions of people buying tires. But we used to even see that in the sneaker space. You know, you used to see, you know, it kind of turned into a meme over the last few years, or some sort of, you know, prank at Foot Locker with somebody running out of the store. But it's been a while since we've seen like testing of shoes outside of like running stores. Small running stores always do a great job at that, and they stick to it. But those have become fewer and fewer, and they become a part of the bigger entity, and then you lose that actual comparison that consumers get.
That detailed testing of the product. You don't get to do that really with shoes, especially because, I mean, to be fair, the most shoes that people buy today are just to wear. They're not doing anything performance oriented, even if it is a performance shoe. So you miss out on.
I mean, let's be fair. If you go to REI, they got that little fake rock thing you can climb in the middle of their shoe display. That's really going to tell you whether it's going to work when you're out climbing Mount Everest or not, just by going over that 3-foot fake
it's
rock.
Better than being on flat ground and you jump
trying
around.
to feel it.
So I get it. I think one of the things that was really fascinating to me was the tread stuff. So I would, because in the sneaker world, you never get an outsole that's completely flat. That has no ridges in it.
Like a slick tire, for example.
Like I would think that was a slick tire, but they were saying the more ridges you have in the tire, the less ground contact you have, and so you lose some traction with the ridges, which made me think of F1. And like I always wondered why they were putting like these what looked like super slick tires on F1 cars. And like why don't these things have any tread in them? Why aren't they slipping all over? But they have better traction when it's flat like that, which was it was just not.
It's just putting more of. I mean, think about this. Like cars are, you know, you've got an engine, you've got suspension, you've got all these mechanics involved in that. Just like the human body, we've got muscles, we've got, you know, our lungs, our hearts, are all these things that do different things. But no matter what the body's doing or the car's doing, the contact area is what allows us to move. Right? If you're running, if you're jumping, if you're playing basketball in a car, you're not doing. You can have 1,000 horsepower if you don't have the proper tire. You're not going to be able to put that to the ground. So you're not going to be able to do anything that the car was built to do. And, you know, to your point, it's like if you look at the bottom, I'm not going to get up and get it, but if you look at the bottom of like a Jordan 1, mind you, that's an old school basketball shoe, but a lot of kind of the zigzag pattern and the multiple, you know, not layers, but there'd be, you know, 100 different sections with these different, you know, kind of tread patterns, so to speak, on the bottom of a sneaker. They're designed that way for a reason, again, for lateral movement, etc. And the compound too. Like again, why does your basketball shoe squeak and a running shoe doesn't squeak? It's the silica content, the carbon content, whatever it is in the rubber itself. All that factors into what you're going to be able to do as an athlete or a wannabe athlete or just a human being trying to go out and walk comfortably. And the same thing with the car. So it was really cool, man. And then, you know, just aside from all the educational thing too, the fact that they allowed us full access to this 900-acre facility. Like we said, we got to drive the Lotus Emera. We got these 3 series. We went out on a big wet skid pad.
15-acre wet skid pad.
You're gonna have to chime in or tune in to see the kind of the whole footage. We got a whole bunch of content here for that. But
if you're watching, I'm sure Nick will put some here showing us.
It'll
doing
be
crazy
right here.
things.
How do they do it on YouTube?
Right here.
But I got to in that one. I took Nick out in the back seat of a 3 series on the wet skid pad. Bless his heart. With the little Osmo trying to get some footage, and we were, you know, I was doing my best Tokyo Drift impression, and his helmet's going back and forth in the back of the car. But it was a lot of fun, you know. Again, letting us do that and really experience what the tire difference is, like, because on those Michelins, you know, I could throw it out there, not quite as big of an angle, and I could control it more. And then the Bridgestones or whatever it was that we were on the second time, it was like I was on ice. It was all over the place.
I mean, going back to your minivan example, if you have a wife and kids in the car, or a husband and kids, or a partner and kids, whatever your deal is, if your kids are in the back, they're probably throwing up in that first car because I was close to it.
He did get out before I went and did another run.
Yeah, it's like we don't need this footage that much. We got enough footage. So
got
if
enough.
you
We
don't
got
see me
enough.
throwing up, just remember that was because I committed to not having that footage.
Yeah, it's really impressive. The differences are like you just if anything came out of that trip for us coming back and to talk to the audience, is obviously that's why they invited us, because they want us to tell you guys things.
Yep.
It's pay attention to the tires you get for your car. Don't just go for the cheapest thing. Do some research, whether that's on the Treadwell platform and you look it up there, or you look it up somewhere else. I implore you to do some research.
Or shoot me a DM. I'll give you way more tire info than you probably want.
Yes, or if you want to be overwhelmed,
Yeah,
reach out to Erik.
Yeah,
He'll give you more.
Well, we got some other things we got to touch on because there's been some other events we were invited
Yes.
to too. Before we move on to that, though, just real quick, I want to know what your favorite element of the experience was, because we did a lot of things. We'll go with you first, Jacques. What was the favorite thing you got to do out there?
I think the favorite thing for me was the off-roading.
Yes, man.
That was really cool.
Yeah.
To be in those big giant Jeeps and those huge tires and
Yeah.
just flying through that dirt and then through the water and the mud and then like banking those turns and going all over the different terrains. I think that was probably the highlight for me. Like the wet pad was great, and I feel like I need a little more practice there, but I was immediately able to, I guess, appreciate the off-road stuff.
Yeah. Nick?
yeah. The off-road stuff was really awesome. I'm not as big into that as other things, but I've been out a few times with people, and this course was pretty impressive. But I think I got to go with the Lotus though, because it was exactly what I told you. I was like, this is the power to weight ratio.
Yeah.
Like the sweet spot of these cars. Like there are amazing cars out there from, any range, but like when you think of like the conversation that keeps coming back up in our show, when like me sitting in a Honda Civic is a lot of weight for you to feel as a driver, but in that Lotus, it's like the perfect balance. You don't need a ton of power. You don't need anything more, and it's agile, it's fun, and it goes. And I think that was like, don't get me wrong, it's a blast. Like Rescue 1,
That thing was sick.
thing is insane. But the Lotus, just being in the Lotus and getting to feel that was like, this is like, I don't need any crazier of a sports car. This is the level of sports car I want to drive on a regular basis. Power to weight ratio.
So what about you?
I need a little more time in the Lotus just because I love fast cars on road courses. That's where the bulk of my racing is road racing and stuff. But again, we mentioned, I think on the show a couple times, I got to do the Baja 1000 and the Baja 500 a few years ago, and once I did that, I was hooked on dirt racing, especially open desert racing and stuff. And so when we got to throw those Jeeps around, first of all, the slow stuff too, like even climbing that 30-degree incline where it's all wet, and you realize again not only how important tire compound is, but how important four-wheel drive is, and why the tool that you're using matters. And then the Rescue 1, which Nick mentioned, was this. We'll throw some pictures up of it. It's this crazy like rock crawler that they had built there on 40-inch tires, Dana 60 axles, all sorts of stuff, and they were out there. I thought Jacques was trying to get the cinematic shot, and I was like, yo, you better move, or we're gonna end up driving right over him here in a second.
Content.
But he got that content. Wait till you see that footage. But no, that was cool. I think for me, just anytime I can go throw something around in the dirt, it's awesome. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And again, just want to say thank you to the Discount Tire family for having us out to the Treadwell experience. Go check them out. Immerse yourself in that website and kind of educate yourself on tires and everything. And now we're going to talk about where else we went, because it's been a pretty cool adventure the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, you two went somewhere else that I didn't get a chance to go.
We came straight off the plane from San Antonio, basically. Decided to get a little sleep and then woke up and
Formula Drift.
Yes, indeed.
I haven't been to Formula Drift in quite some time, pre-pandemic, plus a year or two. I actually watched last year's finals on the live stream, but man, there were so many people out there
Yeah.
Erik got so many shots of people with kicks on.
Oh man,
I would say like 70+% of the people out there are wearing like some good stuff. And I was just like, yeah, this is, we just kept walking around like these are our people, like these are our people.
We're home.
But yeah, it was really cool to see. I mean, just how big it's gotten, because you can see watching it on live stream doesn't give you that raw emotional feeling,
right,
or the teary-eyed smoke in your lungs,
burnt
feeling.
rubber.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was awesome to see that many people out there for it.
It was cool, man. And like Nick said, walking around and seeing, this is kind of why we started the podcast. We know there's a bit of crossover between the sneaker culture and car culture.
Yep.
And it all seemed to just be right there at Irwindale that afternoon. I mean, just walking around, I think I even said to Nick, I was like, man, we missed an opportunity here. We should have printed up stickers or something, just pass out cars and kicks, because I think 70% is severely underestimated. It was just heat on people's feet everywhere, and it's really cool to see that. Again, it's an event like Formula Drift is more. It's not necessarily, obviously, it's motorsports competition, but it's not about necessarily the quickest lap time or this or that. It's a form of self-expression. It's how much smoke can you create, how much speed can you carry, how much angle can you carry in this drift, and you're side by side with one of your homies, these other competitors, and it's more about style points, etc. And so that really ties into the whole reason that we buy these sneakers and stuff anyways. It's just a way of saying, hey, this is me. This is kind of what I like to do.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see that out there and just experience it. We got to see a bunch of, for me, this whole trip has been a kind of reconnection with a bunch of my friends since I left LA and the car world and stuff. And again, shout out to the guys at Formula Drift for, we had that media pass band. We had the little hookup there.
Again, the ID agency, Jonathan Wong, JDM Wong, as people know him, for getting us in there. I mean, I think the craziest part, to be honest, was like Erik and I got there fairly early.
Yeah.
And the line to get in was like,
it took us like 30 minutes.
At least, yeah. It
Oh, wow.
It was a lot. So, it's just great. I always come back to it. I told you this, I think, on the plane at some point, but I just am so infatuated with the idea that people are like, these people are out here having fun, drifting their cars around, just showing off, and money is given to them to go do that. Same thing on the racing thing. It's like, it's just such a cool thing to me, and to see all the, the little kind of mini car show that was going on that we walked through. Yep. We put a bunch of stuff on the social from that, and just to see all the different levels of it too, because you have, obviously guys that are, this is their professional career. But then you have I'm drawing a blank on his name, but the kid that's 14, rookie of the year this year.
Yeah, rookie of the year, like, 14 years old.
You're 14 years old, man. That sport is going to be massive in 5 to 10 years, because look at how young people are getting into it. Like, just think if you might have raced. How early?
I started at like 15.
Okay,
so which is kind of late by driver standards.
So I never got into racing because honestly, I love driving, but I don't. Like, racing is not necessarily my thing. Like, I'd rather be a part of the organizational aspect of it and the business side of it. But I love cars. I said before, I bought my first car at like 12 and a half. Like, it wasn't running, but it was cheap enough where I had saved up enough money and like try to get it working.
I love that.
But racing was just never my thing. I mean, we don't go street racing. I never did that. But
never did it either.
Seeing the fact that these guys are out there at 14, 15 years old on a professional level drifting, and just thinking about what that could be for the sport of drifting, because in racing you can get in a cart at 8 years. Enzo's in a cart.
Enzo's in a cart at 6. He's not competing yet, but he's driving at 6 years old.
But he'll probably be competing within a year or two. Like, that's the inevitable next step if he's got a dad like you, right? So it's like that to me is just like such a cool thing to see. Like, imagine if we could do that in sneakers and be like, oh, my nephew turns 12 next year. He wants to be a designer.
Yeah.
And we had a way to like bring him into the minor leagues. And like, that's a crazy opportunity that just doesn't happen in many places.
It was cool. I saw on the feed, again, we're recording this now. It's probably, you'll see it next week-ish, but at Koto, the Formula One race at Koto just happened this past weekend. And I don't know if you saw on Mercedes F1 social feed, Kenzo, this kid, I think he's 14, 15, kid from the UK, won the World Karting Championship. And he was invited there. He's one of Mercedes development drivers, and he got to sit in Lewis Hamilton's F1 car for the first time. Cool. And there's a little interaction between him and Lewis that's just,
that gives me chills, man.
I mean, it's like heart melting to see the smile on this kid's face and to like be in his hero's car, and just it's amazing. So nurturing it from a young age is super cool, man. And one of the things I wanted to touch on that you mentioned about the street racing and stuff, again, we all did stupid stuff when we were younger. I think in part, I'm not saying I did or didn't, but there wasn't places to go do things like this.
Right.
And I want to give some love to my buddy Tim Huddleston, who's been a friend for years. He owns Irwindale Raceway. I've raced out there before. I did a charity race out there. He gave me full access to the facility when we shot that film out there. Just said, yeah, come film at my racetrack, basically. So he's been a buddy for a long time. And when he took that over, that was one of his main things he wanted to do is they have a small drag strip there, an 8th mile drag strip. They got the asphalt oval and then the shorter oval infield. They have a burnout box out there. Yeah. And so they on weekends when they are not hosting big events like Formula Drift, they open it up for a small fee. You can go out there and you can do whatever crazy stuff you want to do in your own car. If you want to drag race, you want to do burnouts, you want to do donuts, hey man, go do it there so that you don't do that stupid stuff out on the streets. And so really cool program. Again, shouts out to Tim and the guys at Irwindale Raceway, because that's awesome that they're doing stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad you guys had a good time. Matt, I missed it. I'll have to catch it next time.
You will, but you
Jared
did.
To get us out there.
Yeah, Jared Deanda, shouts out to him. It was his birthday last week too, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jared.
He's going to be coming on the pod soon. He's hyped about this. He's another big car guy, sneaker guy, golf guy. So we're excited to have him on here pretty soon. But yeah, we I guess to kind of wrap things up, there was a final event that we all got to go to here in LA together. Jacques did get to go to this one. Jacques,
I did.
Intro that for us.
I did. So we got to go to an event called Cars and Kicks.
Cars and Kicks.
Same name as this podcast.
Yeah.
It was an event put on by Hypebeast, or I shouldn't say Hypebeast, Hypedrive.
Hypedrive, now there's subsidiary.
Hypedrive, and Jeff Staple. It was out in Santa Monica?
It's technically Brentwood.
Yeah.
It's
Brentwood?
like Olympic, just west of the 405.
Brentwood, Santa Monica area. Ish.
West LA.
Lots of cool cars. So Jeff and a couple of other people, they put on a talk inside, but I think a lot of the action was really happening outside. A lot of people just pulled up in their cars, and like a couple of car clubs, I've seen them come through with their cars, and then everybody kind of hopped out with their sneakers, like their matching sneakers, kind of matching to their cars. Which was a cool vibe, and the reason why we exist here, kind of talking about those same things. And it was really, really great. Tons of great people. A lot more people than I expected. I really didn't know how many people were going to be there. This is like my first like cars and coffee sort of style event. So I wasn't sure how many people were there, and it was a lot more people than I expected, which was really dope. Saw a couple people that I knew that I didn't even know were into cars. I was like, oh, whoa, what do you do?
Had a handful of fans come up and be like, oh, are you Jacques Slade?
I don't know if that's necessarily
it happened. It happened.
Yes. I don't know if that's
Don't be
accurate,
humble, my man.
But we got to. It was a very cool event, and then these two guys came while I was stuffing my face with tacos and quesadillas. They had birria tacos there, so I was being a fat boy. But it was great. It was a really cool event. Enjoyed hearing Jeff and everyone else talk about their experiences with cars and kicks and the history behind them and why they mean things to them. And it gave me it helped solidify why I think this podcast works so much, because there's such a mutual interest between the two and ties between the two that it really shows and makes what we're doing something that's really truly special, because I don't think anyone's really spoken to that part of us and that part of car people, that part of sneaker people, and the people that are in between.
Yeah, it was cool, man. I mean, again, Eddie over at Hypebeast, who's now developing Hypedrive and everything like that. he kind of put this whole thing together with another buddy of mine, Michael Rapetti, who owns the Motoring Club. That's where the event took place. And I've known them for a while. Eddie did a really cool piece on me. I guess it was a couple years ago, before Hypedrive was a thing. Hypebeast was doing a driver profile thing, and we did a really dope shoot with my GT3 Club Sport up in Canada on the back lot, Superman and Lois back lot. So like I pulled the car out onto our fake town, Smallville. I threw my character Kyle, threw his Kansas license plate on the back of the 911, and
cool.
we did a really dope photo shoot out there, and they did a driver profile on me for Hypebeast at the time. And Eddie's a big car guy as well. He's got a 997. He's got had a handful of other cars as well. I think he daily drives a 5 Series BMW or whatever. And he started doing this Hypedrive thing because he sees, again, the crossover of culture, fashion, sneakers, etc., as a form of self-expression, just like a bunch of car people. So this was I don't know if it was their first event, but it was their first Cars and Kicks event.
Yeah.
And he and Michael together, Michael again founded the Motoring Club. He's got a ton of sneakers. I think Jacques' probably going to go tour his closet soon. We're going to have him on the pod at some point, but they put together a really great show. I mean, it was, again, you had Jeff Staple, like you said. You had RJ De Vera, who's, a homie who's also going to be on the pod really soon. Hint, hint, wink, wink. And he brought out Sloan, his Aston Martin, and he had a matching pair of Shoe Surgeon Academy Jordan 1s that he had done. Michael had a whole display of his, various Jordan 1s and Air Maxes and stuff next to a 911 there. Jeff had his, wrapped 911 there. I think TJ Ski had a convertible 72 Chevelle. It was a dope event.
Amazing.
It sounded sick.
Sounded
Really eclectic
Very
group
impressive.
of cars and people, and what y'all alluded to, the panel, with Eddie and Jeff and RJ and who else? They had a fourth on there too.
Michael. was up
Michael,
there.
of course, Michael Rapetti. It was really cool to see the fan interaction and be so invested in it and ask them questions about their career trajectory and how sneakers took them places and design took them places and how the car world, how they evolved from, in RJ's case, from being like one of the icons in the early years of the JDM world to being, he's now VP of marketing at the SEMA show, or of SEMA. It's incredible to hear that and see these younger folks and older folks just really invested in the journey. Jacques can be a testament to his journey through the sneaker world. I mean, what's your hoodie say? Because not the one you're wearing now, but is it because sneakers?
Because sneakers.
Exactly.
Yeah, my T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was nice again to be in a room full of our people, so to speak, people that just like-minded, love the creativity from all different walks of life too. Yeah. Yes, there were Lamborghinis out front, but there was also, just walking around the facility, there was like lowered, old Mercedes wagons and a whole bunch of JDM cars, and some of them, that still had like the primer hood and this and that, but like we've all been there, we've all either had a project car that doesn't get finished ever. We've all had a pair of sneakers that was the only pair of sneakers that we could afford, but so we wore them to do everything, and they're beat, but we still love them. Like, it's just cool to see that next to like the super rare stuff and the super high-end stuff. And I think that's what I love a lot about the culture, is just how it brings everybody from all walks of life together. And it was a dope event, so we were excited to be out there.
I think my favorite part was actually what you said in the back.
The birria tacos?
Well, I didn't get any, but that would have been my favorite part. No, when we walked into the back where the rest of the cars were, and you were like, "Oh
yeah, that was a great moment."
Oh, yeah. As I've gotten more into cars, I'm starting to realize the stuff that I like, and it's not like I shouldn't say I don't like them. I like the Lamborghinis, I like the Ferraris, and all of that stuff, like the Lotus. All that stuff is cool.
It's not what speaks to you.
But it's not what speaks to me. Like the stuff that speaks to me is like the older, like the Land Rovers, the Defenders, or like a Grand National, like that. Maybe it's like that 80s, 90s era of car. I think is really going to be. I think that's going to be the sweet spot for me. I think there may be something, maybe something outside of that range that kind of catches my attention.
Kind of like sneakers.
I was going to say, do you think there's a window for sneakers like that?
I don't know if I have a window for sneakers like that, because like while I love Jordans and I love sneakers made in the 90s, like I still like stuff that was made in 2022 and 2019 and 2015.
So
like,
much
I still
more
have a lot of stuff in those. I still have a lot of stuff in those worlds. Whereas with the cars, I think if I'm gonna get a project car, if I'm gonna start like working on stuff like that or get a car like that I want, I think it would probably be from like somewhere in that 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s, and that would be something that I would get and that I would try to keep and try to work on. Like maybe something earlier than that, but I don't like the muscle cars are not the things that attract me. It's not about speed for me. I guess if that's the thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I thought the space too was really cool. I mean, you know Michael, but I mean, just the connection between cars and coffee for me is just super important anyway. Because I've said this before, but we also met a ton of people on this trip collectively. But talking to Armando on the shuttle and talking to him on the plane.
Which, by the way, we're probably going to go Gigi Salos Tacos after we're done doing this podcast later today.
Yes, please. Just saying how, he's doing like some stuff with his G's on Sunday, thing, and like bringing family together to these car events that I think has just been, the evolution of cars is so beautiful to me because in the 90s, and this is probably too much for this episode, but Eric's got a great story that I heard at Luft a few weeks back about his Toyota pickup. But like, cars in the 90s was such a different thing because everybody was so segmented, and if you liked one thing, you didn't like another. Or if you and I grew up in a neighborhood where like there was 3 or 4 lowriders in my neighborhood, and my family has always had Hondas since the 70s, and my cousin bought a 91 Civic brand new, and that like sent me down a completely different path than what I maybe thought I was going to go down. But I bought an 87 Accord to put wires and hydraulics on it. Like that's what I wanted. So dope. And that era was such Lowrider Euro came out in that time. And it was like, whoa, these people, like there's just so many people doing different things then, but it still felt like you couldn't take a Honda Accord with wire wheels to an import show.
Right.
And now Cars and Coffee and all of these events just feel like there's an appreciation for the general self-expression across all of these nuanced places that we all see these cars come out of, and even more appreciation for the weird stuff almost. Yeah. It's like you walk through some of these things, and to your point, I'm not saying that those, Land Cruisers or Range Rovers are weird, but like there's more people that look at it and think like exactly what you're saying. Cool. A Lamborghini's nice. A Ferrari's great. Porsches are beautiful. But like, I kind of want this one that looks a little different and is maybe a little bit less of that flashiness, but like it still has a flashiness for the right audience, which is what I like about it.
I think it's the character. People are looking for. I think in general, people are looking for things with more character.
Yeah.
Because even at the Cars and Kicks show, the like 2 guys pulled up in like the matching yellow Lamborghinis. And it was like, all right, guys, cool. Yeah, you guys have yellow Lamborghinis, but I was more interested in like the row of like 10 Accords that came down the street that were all completely different, but they were all together. Like they had a similarity, but they were different. I was like, okay, like that's dope. But the guys in Lamborghinis, it's great, and more people took pictures with the guys in the Lamborghinis, but all those Hondas that came down the street at the same time together, I was like, okay, like, all right, I get it. Like, that was more for me.
Speaking of personality, I think we should wrap this episode with what you're going to do with your Rivian when you get home, I'm assuming.
Oh, man, geez. Well, I've now been inspired, to do a lot of things, really. But the Rivian just recently announced or launched. This is one thing I love about like tech forward companies, right? For Halloween, Rivian launched car costumes is what they're calling it, and it's all over the air updates, and I cannot wait to get home and play with, basically turn my truck into Kit from Knight Rider, or have the dash from like the Back to the Future DeLorean. It's really, really cool to see this is a whole new era of car makers, right? Like, you couldn't do stuff like this back in the day. The technology didn't exist. But now, to think that I get to go home and, just hit a little button, I can probably update it from my phone. So when I get home, I've got the whole kit Knight Rider dash to play with on my truck. They got the whole on the front light bar and everything. So I'm super stoked about that. Yeah, the like kid in me that grew up in the 80s watching David Hasselhoff and just whip it around in super pursuit mode. I'm gonna go pretend I'm him for a bit when I get home in the Rivian. But yeah, man, it's been a really cool couple of weeks, and then I'm looking forward to what we got coming up and the lineup of guests that we've now that we've been doing this a while, we've talked to a lot of people. So many people really excited about being a part of this. So the lineup of guests that we got is super dope. Looking forward to that. But yeah, for now, again, I just want to give one last shout out to the Lon Lobos guys for letting us use their home for this podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And yeah, maybe we'll get one more before we all go our separate ways. But thank you guys again for watching, for listening. Y'all let them know where we can find us. Where they can find us.
The Cars X Kicks Show.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
carsxkicks.com.
carsxkicks.com. It has all of the information.
We'll link you to everything else.
Yeah, we'll link you to everything else. It's all in the bio. Make sure you review the show. 5 stars, obviously, because you love seeing me wear a helmet at the beginning of this show.
I was going to say, Jacques wore a helmet for y'all.
I committed to that for this show.
Yes, indeed.
On all the places. You can find us on all the places. Thank you guys for listening. We definitely appreciate it. I'm Jacques.
I'm Nick.
I'm Erik.
And we'll see you guys next time.
See y'all.
Peace.